They're so intertwined with each other. So yes, if you have incredible disharmony, dysregulation in your energy body and or your emotional body, it's going to manifest in your physical body in one way or another, and vice versa. If your physical body is really whacked out, it's going to be hard for that emotional body to be in harmony, for that energy body to flow if there's a dysregulation in the physical body. So the way I see it is that we really need to be looking at all of those things, and 100%. If you're playing whack-a-mole, maybe it's not a new supplement that you need. Maybe it's not the new diet that you need so much as you need to like look at this on a different level for you.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, plus social media is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and as always, from UnderstandingAutoimmune.com. And oh my goodness, it's a pleasure to have a return guest and a dear friend. I was thinking how many decades I've known this wonderful woman. Wow. But I'm really excited because she's been doing something totally fascinating. But let me first introduce you to Dr. Jenny Tufenkian. You'll recognize the name if you've been following the show for any length of time, because she is an amazing naturopath who specializes in treating chronic illnesses. And she's been doing it for over, can I cheat and say over 2+ decades?
Yes, you can.
Oh, okay, good. I'm not sure. Do we use the word cure, Dr. Jenny, for your chronic fatigue yourself?
Yeah, remission.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. We should have that. We should talk about that. What do you call it?
My rheumatologist called it when at the 5 years. They reminded me, they said, now you're not cured, you're in remission. And I thought, thank you for setting that into my brain. Appreciate that sort of step down. And then I told her, I don't care what you call it, I'm feeling good.
Yeah, exactly. And so the reason I go back and forth on this too, because I feel like I think 100% resolution is 100% possible for people. And I think that relapse is also possible for people. And that's part of the education process that I love to share in terms of how it is that you can stop having relapses, but you are at risk for a relapse depending on your root cause. So it's like everything else in this is that it's really, these complex conditions are really awful for like soundbite medicine, right? Where we have social media and you're looking for the soundbite of something that just like clicks with people in a few seconds, because these conditions are so complex that there's nuance to that answer.
Every time you get the word diagnosis, I've talked to many people, and I know many more people with chronic fatigue, and each one of their stories is entirely different. And each one of the stories over the 500+ episodes of people I've talked to about autoimmune, each one of their stories is different, although a lot of them share a similar diagnosis.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's why I call it medical whack-a-mole. One of the things that frustrates me about chronic conditions or long-term conditions, and then I begin to think, listen, all life, because I'm talking to my friends, speaking for myself, we're all getting up there. And I just went to a mile marker reunion not too long ago. And the thing that struck me was, we're all dealing with something. I didn't find anybody that considered themselves pristine in the health department at that age. What we're going to talk about today, I know that you've got a great summit coming up on, because when I first started this show, I was calling you and every other doctor I knew, we were interviewing about just the body, fix the problem, fix the body. And for me, that was my mindset. The body was broken, I got to fix it. But, over these 500+ episodes I've been doing, the one thing I have found was that it's not just the body. Yeah. There's the emotions, the spirit, the mental, how you react to it, your social life, all of that plays into how well and how fast you recover from things. Dr. Jenny, I didn't do a very good introduction to you, but people can look you up if they want, because I want to have plenty of time with you. I know you have a fantastic summit coming up. First, I'm going to shut up and let you talk about that, and then I've got some questions regarding that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I just so appreciate being here to share. So yes, this is like having a baby and being in gestation for a very long time. I've been wanting to do a summit for ages, and I've been working hard on it for the past year. And we're right next to we're starting labor now. And I've interviewed over 50 different experts. And it was out of this need that I have felt this vacuum of information. I felt like there's just not enough information for everyone who's struggling with complex illness, chronic fatigue, myalgic encephalitis, long COVID, to get the answers that they need. And when we talk about the terms that are used by conventional medicine and what people are being told, too many people are being told that, I'm sorry, we don't have any answers for you. You have to get used to it. I just was on vacation in New Zealand and met a young woman who's 20. She's had long COVID for 3 years, and the medical system there told her, sorry, kid, you just have to get used to it. And she's at her parents' couch. No, that is wrong. So I feel like the Lorax standing on the trees, you give her the trees, and it was very exciting. So I'm putting together a summit and I'm going for the longest title ever summit award, and I'm pretty sure we're going to win. It's the Brain Fog, Chronic Fatigue, Long COVID, and Pain Breakthrough Summit. So you can address your root cause and live life fully again. The reason we put all of these different terms in there is that they're all connected. They're all connected by the body being stuck in a dysregulated state, a pro-inflammatory state, a state where your autonomic nervous system is dysregulated. And we're finding out so many amazing things. And I was able to bring these really brilliant speakers and experts to talk about these topics so that you can all get more information to be more empowered in your health journey. So I'm super thrilled. It's been so fun to talk with them all.
First one, and I addressed the title. When we were texting and you sent me the title, I thought it was choose one. Honey, let's do an interview. And I'm like, okay, any of them. Okay, good. I'm talking about all of them. Okay. That brings me to then, if you've interviewed 50 people and you've got it fresh because you've just been, oh, let me circle back. I hope that the young woman in New Zealand was able to get some hope that this, like, get used to it is not an acceptable answer.
So she happened to be the daughter of one of my husband's friends from college, and they had not seen each other for 35 years or something like that. And so we went out to dinner, and the 20-year-old happened to come to dinner with us. And they said, oh, I'm not in college. I had some health issues. And I went ding, ding in the back of my head, didn't say a thing. And then later in the conversation, she shared with me when she found out what I was doing, she was like, oh, that's what I have. Yes, I was able to gifted her a couple different programs. She's super excited to listen to this summit and told her that was BS, what she was told. It makes me angry. I'm very sorry. Nobody should have said that to you. We got to figure out what's going on with you.
Yeah, I was going to say especially at 20, but at any age, I don't accept the idea of that ill health comes with old age either.
That's also BS because fatigue is not about aging. It isn't. I think the thing that sort of riles us, you and I both up about hearing this for these teenagers and these young adults to be told this is that you know that when you get hit when you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, you at least have some life experience and some wisdom and some perspective that you can bring to this. And you have some other resources that you can pull on to take care of yourself or to do other things or find other parts of yourself that you find valuable. To be a teenager or an early 20s when you're supposed to have all this vitality, like it's the time when you're physically have a lot of vitality and you're wired to be out exploring and connecting and learning who you are, to be told that you are just going to be this tired, brain foggy, exhausted person on your parents' couch for the rest of your life, that is so depressing. So it's just wrong. Talk about putting that in your brain. These poor people, it's BS. So I've said that 4 times now, I think.
BS, so we'll say it again. It wasn't even, and for in my case, what was I? I don't know, I can't remember. Midlife, how's that? Somewhere in there when I got my diagnosis. But from my early 20s, I kept getting a variety of diagnoses because I knew something was wrong early on.
Right.
But the weird thing to me was they'd always give you the list. They give you the diagnosis, and this was before Dr. Google, guys. You'd go look it up somehow.
Yeah.
And you're like, maybe 2 out of the 10. So it wasn't ever getting the right diagnosis was one of the things. However, I'm going to ask you to challenge me on this because I have this belief that you can fix a lot of the things in your life, but if you don't go into the mental, emotional, spiritual part of it, it's going to be medical whack-a-mole. The next shock to your system, next week without sleep, whatever it is that happens to you, next few meals that aren't as nourishing, something's going to pop up like a little whack-a-mole.
I totally agree with that. And I think that when I first went to medical school, there was this triangle that was part of our school's logo, and it was mind, body, spirit. on each angle of the triangle. And that was everywhere on everything that we used at the school. And I saw it all the time. And yet, even though that was our logo, even in naturopathic medical school in the 90s, we still didn't talk a lot about the spirit piece. There wasn't a lot about what does that mean that we have body, mind, spirit as part of our logo. It was really something that I discovered and learned on my own through my own healing journey, through the time that I became very sick and was in bed with IVs in my arm and crashed and had very severe myalgic encephalitis and had to take a year out of school. And it was through that personal journey that I realized the importance of my spirit, because really that was the universe just whapping me into bed so that I had to learn about this other part of myself. My physical body did not function at all. People later thought I might die. They confessed they thought I might die. I was that sick. And it made me have to grow into this other aspect of myself. Even then, I still kept it to myself. It was part of me, but it didn't come out in anything that I would talk about necessarily with people. It's only through the last few decades of the work that I've done with these really complex sick patients and my own personal growth, and so much more that we understand, I think, as a people now, is that it feels like there's just no question we're understanding the physics in a whole different way. Our conventional medical system is based on a biochemical model. In Germany, the doctors are trained in a physics model. So they understand energy medicine and didn't think like homeopathy was snake oil. They thought that there was actually something to it. I feel like in this country now, there's this upswelling of this understanding that we actually are more energy than physical body. Like we really are. We're more energy than physical. And so I talk about that we have this physical layer, this mental, emotional, this energetic layer, but they're not even that distinct, right? They're so intertwined with each other. So, yes, if you have incredible disharmony, dysregulation in your energy body and or your emotional body, it's going to manifest in your physical body in one way or another, and vice versa. If your physical body is really whacked out, it's going to be hard for that emotional body to be in harmony, for that energy body to flow if there's a dysregulation in the physical body. So the way I see it is that we really need to be looking at all of those things, and 100%. If you're playing whack-a-mole, maybe it's not a new supplement that you need. Maybe it's not the new diet that you need so much as you need to like look at this on a different level for you.
I love that. I know I hadn't had a chance to talk to you about this, Dr. Jenny, but a couple months ago, I was feeling really bullied in a particular part of my world.
Uh,
And it took me, luckily, I'm at an age where I can notice it fairly quick, but for whatever reason, it took me a couple of days to notice that was the pushback that was really, I was uncomfortable and unfair.
yeah.
So my physical body was fine, guys. It wasn't that kind of bullying. It was more verbal, see it my way, and that was not going to happen. But what was fascinating to me was the first thing I noticed after the incident, and like I said, it went on over a period, a couple conversations over a couple days. As I was sitting there, just taking the second conversation in, I started to feel parts of my bodies just begin to tremor. It's just like a shake. It was very strange.
Yeah.
And the more I sat with it, I realized that the emotional part was so upset, and the energetic spiritual part, I see them as close cousins, was very upset. And all of a sudden, the latecomer to the game was the physical body, just started to nervously shake. It was really interesting to me because then when I went to my physical therapist, having that insight on my own, she's pretty attuned to it, but I was able to tell her the timeline. Okay, it was an emotional incident that happened, and then the rest of the moles
Yeah.
popped up. There's a little more behind the
There's
twitchiness.
a root to this. There's
Yeah.
a different route we want to explore.
And I think that's very important for people to understand that take a time and look at all of those different areas you were talking about, even if it's just a glance. Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
maybe that did hurt my feelings or whatever. It's just fascinating to me how it all plays and how it reacts so quickly.
Yes. Yeah, it's very interesting. One of the people that's in my program right now, she had, when I first started seeing her, she'd come out of a cancer treatment and was told, "You're done. You're great. You're all good. You're good to go." And she was still really tired a couple years later. And they said, "Oh, it's just age." I don't know, early 40s. It's not
Oh my
age.
goodness.
Or late 30s. It's not age. And she used to do massive bike riding with her husband and stuff. And they just said, no, it's just normal. You're fine. Your cancer's gone. You're fine. Whatever tiredness you're feeling is just normal. And fortunately, we started working together. I had the initial conversation with her. And then her first appointment, she had this whole new set of symptoms, severe headaches, this crazy numbness in her face, and all these really intense experiences. And she has a family history of brain cancer, and she'd already had cancer. So, of course, being she and I are both thinking this is something we need to get checked out. And yet, I could also tell there was something else going on. So, we had her go back to her oncologist, and fortunately, it wasn't brain cancer. Had her start working on some of the mental, emotional, and we started unpacking some of the physical stuff, her mold and viruses and all the other things that are impacting her body. And she started getting a lot better. And then she had this experience where she had this huge emotional thing happen to her. And immediately she got the same headache and numbness come back that had been gone for months. And it came back, and it was such a turn. She's like, oh my gosh, that was such a gift, because I realized how strong my emotions, how much my emotions impact my physical body, that I got all of those symptoms, that they came back like that as soon as that. And I just thought it was a really beautiful lesson in her body for her to realize the power she has. And I always say that your mind is so strong that it can produce all these symptoms in your body from an upset. And that's also the very same power that your mind has to heal. So when we talk about how can we heal ourselves, sometimes it's just using the power of our own mind to allow our bodies to heal and re-regulate.
A lot of time for me anymore. Journaling has helped, by the way, because then I can keep track of these one-time anomalies that turn out to be more one time. And also people like you who were, no, Sharon, do you remember 7 years ago? Whatever. That's helpful too. For me, once I can name it, once I go, oh, I'm getting flush again, whatever's happening,
Yes.
and maybe super fatigued for a day or two. Oh, okay. Sharon, last time this happened, and then I can backtrack. It's, oh, okay.
Yeah.
A particular trauma or an emotional thing, a fright, something like that. One of the questions I have, and then I want to get into these 50 people you interviewed. I'm so excited. I've been thinking, oh, more people to interview for me here. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was autonomic nervous system. To me, I may not always be able to name the emotion, but I'll start to feel myself breathing shallow
Right.
or getting a little clammy, whatever. There'll be like minor physical reactions.
Signs. They're signs. Yeah.
Signs. I love that.
Yes.
So let's talk
Yeah.
about why the autonomic nervous system gets triggered by something and then off to the races. And I love being able to go, I recognize these autonomic nervous system reactions now, where before they had to get to be physical symptoms before I recognize them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was, again, this trip in New Zealand, I was driving, and we were driving on the left side of the road, which is okay because I used to live in Britain. So that was okay. I had that old programming in there. My husband was sleeping and I'm driving, and something happened that kind of stressed me out. And I started to just notice this. And I just interviewed Trisha Pringle, who's another naturopath, and she has this great thing. She talks about stress. That's her thing, is stress and the hypothalamic pituitary axis and adrenals and all that. And she has this great thing called the questions about bears. And she says basically your nervous system, when it starts worrying about something, it's like it's basically, oh no, there's a bear, and it goes into this panic response. Whether it's just an email, it's your own thinking in your head of it triggers, like somebody looks at you at some way it triggers something about, "Oh, they don't like me, I'm not good enough," and it triggers that story. That alone can trigger that autonomic nervous system to be bear, bear. And she has this great set of tools that I started using right then as I was driving, which is, you just ask, first of all, is this even my bear? Is this my bear, or is this somebody else's bear? Your statement, not my monkeys, not my circus. And then she's like, do I need to, does this bear need to have all of this energy? Is it worthy of all of this energy? Or can I delegate this bear to somebody else? Is there anything I can do about this bear? And start asking these questions, and it begins to calm down that nervous system. But I think being able to catch ourselves is key. And the sooner you can catch yourself, the sooner you're going to be able to get your body back into that healing state. Because the autonomic nervous system can't be in two states at once. You're either in a stress response or you're in a healing response. And a lot of people with chronic disease are stuck in a stress response because being sick is stressful. And so you're physiologically and emotionally in a stress response, even when you're trying, and you can be oh my gosh, I can only eat these foods. I have to eat this food. I have to get my nap in. I can't do that. It's going to make me tired. All that's a stress response. I'm not saying that those aren't really good things to be doing. You do need to eat the right foods to you for you. You do need to rest. You need to do all those things. Sometimes the way we go about taking care of ourselves, the tone, the energy behind it, the fear behind it is still a stress response. And so then we're still in that stress express with our autonomic nervous system. And that's why we stay stuck in this chronic disease state because the nervous system never has a frickin' chance to get rid of those bears and to go over into a healing state.
Oh, I think that's really, I love that. Bears. Oh my God. And that's true. I noticed that even after people that I've talked to and myself, we'll use the word remission, whatever word we want to use there. But there are still
Let's use
little,
recovery. I like
okay,
it better.
recovery. That's okay. We'll use
Doesn't it feel
recovery.
better?
Oh, it feels a lot better. When you set up my autonomic nervous system, just, yeah, we'll
Yeah,
use recovery.
recovery.
Okay, we'll use recovery. But I'm thinking at times where even the idea of going to eat somewhere used to stress me out because I was always worried, am I going to have a reaction at that restaurant? Or am I just going to sit there and drink tea or water or whatever while everyone else is enjoying this delightful spread? And so it was interesting to me how many ways stress would creep in that you wouldn't normally think about. It
Right.
wasn't just the diagnosis or something like that. It was all these little
Mhm.
decisions that were having to be made along the way that I
Yeah.
never used to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this concept that we can get addicted to our stress. And I think that's true. I found that in myself as I've continued on my healing journey. We're always healing and always working on ourselves. And at least I am.
Oh my.
Always here to learn and grow and change. And I've been aware that's really true. And as I become more aware of the different patterns that I become addicted to that are not serving me anymore, it's interesting because they're so in that subconscious mind. You just think you think, oh, that's just who I am. And then once you start really looking at that, you realize, oh, no, that's not really who I am. That's who I thought I was. I can be something different and I can be here in a different way, in a different energy around this, and I don't need to be addicted to that. And then when those old bears show up, you're like, yeah, it doesn't resonate anymore. And so you're putting away your worry pile.
True. That's true. Oh my goodness, I want to be mindful of the clock because
Yeah.
I am so fascinated. So you interviewed 50 people. Give us
Yeah.
the name again because I'm never going to remember it.
It is the brain fog, chronic fatigue, long COVID, memory loss, and pain breakthrough summit.
Okay. However, I'm going to put an asterisk there because it's good for all chronic long-term conditions, short-term conditions. It might just be
Exactly.
even something that maybe you don't think you need, but your family member needs.
Through our conversation, I just realized the next time I do a summit, it should just be called the No BS Summit. How's that?
Oh, yeah, I'm all on board that one. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, then let me ask you a question right off the top of my head about the no BS. What one thing did you learn that intrigued you the most? Jenny, you've been around a long
Yeah.
time and you are what I call not only an amazing doctor, but also a constant learner. Every
Mhm.
time we talk, you've learned some 100 new things. This might be a little hard. What was the one thing that you were like, oh my gosh, that really my audience needs to hear that.
Oh my gosh.
You probably can't come up with one.
I can't come up with the one thing. I can't. I'd say the thing that I found really exciting, like revolutionary exciting level for me, as somebody who has been in school for a long time, reading research papers for decades and decades, who in my journey of healing chronic fatigue myalgic encephalitis just dug in deep in 2014, 15, 16, and then again went really deep 2018, 2019 to literature, like reading everything I could find on these topics. And then again throughout the pandemic, there was so much discord between, there was fighting in the early teens. Myalgic encephalitis is caused by this virus. No, it's caused by this. No, it's this. No, it's this. It's just the one thing. And I knew it was more than one thing. That didn't make sense to me. And now the papers say, oh, it's heterogeneous. It's caused by all these things. But there's still not a lot of agreement in the summit because you're listening to the people on the cutting edge of research, of clinical work, of healing, the cutting edge. There was so much agreement on what is happening in the body with these conditions. And partly why, like I said in the beginning, it's such a long topic title is because there is this underlying thread between them all of this of the neuroinflammation that's happening, the impact between your neurology and your immune system, and how it's in a dysregulated state. And that is impacting your brain. And part of why I put in the memory loss in here is because all of us with brain fog are higher risk for having dementias because it's the same thing that's happening inside the brain as that brain inflammation. So to have speaker after speaker, David Perlmutter, have all these amazing speakers in there talking about this and having us all be in agreement as to what is happening, and for all of us to be excited that this is really a breakthrough understanding of how that's impacting your brain, what's happening inside the mitochondria, how the mitochondria and the nervous system and the immune system are always communicating, and how this is making us be in this pattern of illness. And because we have this information, we now know where to go to get the body to rebalance into a state of health. So that was a thing that was super amazing to me, is how much cohesive agreement there was across all the speakers.
I am so on board with the idea of people really need, lay people like myself, understand inflammation
Yeah.
and the depth of inflammation. It's not
Yeah.
just what you eat, it's stress. It can be what you're exposed to, mold, chemicals, blah, 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 all sorts of things
Right.
can
Yeah.
cause inflammation. To me, inflammation, you feel it. For me, at least, inflammation comes and goes depending on my stress level and my
Right.
lack of sleep or my
Right.
getting the right sleep, all sorts of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Where do we start if we want to tackle such a big topic? I'm almost afraid to ask it in our last 20 minutes.
So how to address inflammation, where to
Yeah,
start?
where to start?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let me just say one other thing that surprised me and excited me about the summit, and then I'll answer that question because it's a little bit connected. I'd say the other thing that really was super cool about the summit for me, as coming out, I feel like I'm coming out as this person that's talking about this, the mind, body, spirit, and how we're all of those things. And I'm very comfortable talking about it. And I've always considered myself a very left brain, right brain person. And the summit's very left brain, right brain. I have Dr. Vajani in there who, if you put his name into PubMed, it's 6 pages of his research papers come up. Like 6 pages, not six reference, but 6 pages. Like he's 80 years old and he's this incredible researcher. Very left brain people. And yet, so many of these brilliant researchers and physicians also talked about the emotional and energetic part of the healing process of disease of the body. Patrick Hanaway, who's headed up and helped Dr. Hyman create the Cleveland Clinic, interviewed him. He has a clinic where he did research on long COVID patients and has a protocol for long COVID for patients that's been research based. He had a history of healing his cancer and is now a shaman for a native tribe. And you just never, you wouldn't expect this. And I love it. Like it excites me. And when I see this, so many people, so many brilliant people really embracing all the different levels of healing now. Like it's not just pushed aside as being woo, it's becoming more and more important. So that was the other thing that really was surprising and exciting about the summit that I thought was super cool.
Before we go into inflammation, my inflammation question, I think that's fantastic. I'm really excited to listen into all of them myself because I don't know why growing up, I was taught that there are different parts of you and they're different parts. And
Yeah.
somehow when you think of different parts, at least me growing up, I don't know, I didn't realize they all talk to each other. And then as I grow older, I thought, oh, well, yeah, okay, they're talking to each other. I didn't realize that they're like locked together.
Yeah,
They kind of
right,
move through
right,
the world
right.
together. And my mind,
That somehow in there, they're not in separate cases, that somehow they're interconnected in this thing. Like, how could
yeah,
that
it
be?
took me a long time to understand that. Like, okay, yes, I'm emotional. I'm crying about this. I didn't cut my arm, so why is my body reacting? I don't know why I was that, but that was the way I was raised, where
Yeah,
it was very distinct. And I was a generation too. About dust yourself up, get up, you're fine.
yeah,
You're fine or not.
yeah, yeah.
So, okay, I quickly tackle inflammation and then I'm
Sure.
going to go back to what this is fascinating. Let's tackle inflammation though.
Okay, so inflammation, great question. How do you start? And inflammation is what's happening if you think you might have mast cell activation syndrome, that's inflammation. If you deal with anxiety, depression, mood changes, that's inflammation. If you have pain, that's inflammation. If you have fatigue, that's inflammation. If you have brain fog, that's inflammation. All dementia, it's all inflammation. That's all of those. So what do you do? This is where I go back to the first thing I go back to are the naturopathic foundations, what all my doctors told me, and now we have all the science to prove it, and we talk about it in many of the talks. It's the gut. So the gut is 70 to 80% of your immune system. That immune system is talking to your nervous system. That nervous system through the vagus nerve is communicating to your limbic brain, and then your limbic brain then takes that information and shoots it back down to your body. And that nervous system is also communicating to the energy power plants in your cells, your mitochondria. So taking care of your gut first is going to be massive for getting your body to get more regulated and to be able to shift yourself out of an inflamed state. So eating the foods that are right for you, working on getting your microbiome set. Most people with long COVID have a reservoir of the COVID virus or something, or trigger dysbiosis in their gut. And so really focusing on the gut first can be massive in terms of healing. I know in my journey, when I really focused on my gut from my long COVID, it was like I had that health foundation I could actually stand on, supported me to work on other things. So the gut is a huge one. And I'll come back in a second and talk about mindset around that. The second thing I would say is sleep is very essential. These are part of what I call the 5 health foundations that don't sound sexy, but are, as Jeffrey Bland says, lifestyle medicine is the most powerful impact we can have on our health. It's lifestyle. It's what are you eating? What are you doing? How are you thinking? How are you being in the world? And so that digestion detoxification piece is huge. The sleep and rhythm, setting your circadian rhythm, getting up in the morning, getting some daylight, getting daylight throughout the day, getting enough sleep at night, getting deep sleep so that you can heal, so that your lymphatic and your brain, your lymphatics can drain so you can heal while you're sleeping is huge. Those are really essential. And doing what you need to do to get that sleep as a bridge. Some people need to take supplements. Some people just need to do mindset work. Some people need to take medications. Like whatever you need to do to get to that sleep as a bridge so that your body can heal, I think is valid to consider on the plate. There are other health foundations that I would add in there, but I'd say just to the inflammation piece, I'd say if I was to add in a third thing that is so central, it is that mind body piece that is associated with that limbic brain, amygdala, insula, that part of your brain that likes to repeat patterns for you. And if you're stuck in a fear-based, anxious, sometimes it's called high functioning freeze, it's called lots of different terms now out there. You may have heard listening to other people talk. It's all the same thing. And if you're stuck in that state, it's very hard for that body to regulate. It's the same thing I was talking about before. Then you're still stuck in that stress response and you're not in your healing response. So doing something to break that pattern. For some of you, that could be vagal exercises because working on your vagus nerve supports that system. For others of you, it's working on having a meditation practice, a mindset practice. For others, it's doing a limbic or insula retraining program to work on that. Or it may just be practicing being happy. There's literally just choosing to be on that channel, like choosing the channel of joy and happiness and love and appreciation and gratitude literally shifts your cells in a second into a different state. And so that when you go to that restaurant and you're on the diet that's there to feed your microbes, one of my speaker guests said that she's from India, and she said that to have guests come to your home is a very sacred event. And she considers her microbiome her guests. And in the morning when she's thinking what she's going to eat, she says, what am I going to feed my guests today is the sacred thing. What am I going to feed my guests? I just love that.
That's a nice way to look at your
Isn't that
microbiome. Instead of
beautiful?
understanding the common word is like all that bacteria,
Yeah,
which
who your
has
guests
multiple
are.
connotations.
So the attitude of when you go out to that restaurant and you're going out with your friends and you're not sure if they're going to have the gluten-free food or if they're going to have all the nightshades that are going to flare you up or whatever it is, you can just go with the attitude of joy and that you have your protein snack in your bag in case you need it, and you're going to go and have a fantastic time. That's what you've already decided. You're going to have a great time. You get to meet your friends. You get to go out. You get to enjoy it, and just enjoy it with all the senses that you can, and eat the things you can and be grateful for that. And if there's nothing on the menu that's really going to support your guests in your belly that time around, that's okay too. Put more energy into spending enjoying the contact that you're having with those people, because that's one of the other health foundations, is that connection with others is really important.
I'm going to put in my little inflammation tip, though, my little stress tip. I was addicted to chronic stress. And I think one of the things that was very helpful, and I still find it helpful, I have certain people in my world that when they tell me something, I believe it.
Mm.
Now, I know that sounds weird. I believe a lot of people. There's certain people in my world that have permission to say anything to me,
Uh-huh.
and,
Yeah.
and I'll be okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, Sharon, you're breathing high. You okay? You seem stressed.
Mm.
Okay. Instead of me going, no, I'm fine, or brushing it off, or let's get on with it, whatever, I have learned stop, breathe, assess, because they're noticing something. Maybe I've fallen into that old pattern, that old
Mhm.
behavior pattern, or whatever it is. When you have those close friends in your world who comment, you're breathing awful high since I saw you. You doing okay? Let's take a couple deep breaths together or something, just to get in the flow of having tea together or something. I find that helpful.
It's so helpful. And I think for the relationships that you have close to you where it's safe, being welcoming that in the relationship is great. I know my husband and I have gotten better and better with that over the years, of feeling safe calling each other on it and hearing it from the other person about just checking in, so that then I can do something to go shift my energy if it feels like it needs to, or my husband can go do his little jumps, or he has these little fun things he does to shift his space. And I find my kids are usually pretty good at calling me out.
Yes, that's where I mostly learned it from. But
Mm. Right. Mom, you're coming from your fear. Like, oh, yeah, you're right. I am. Thank you, young sage.
they know us best, though. Kids joke now that I'm a grandma, and they were joking with their own children about when grandma's eyebrow does that. And I'm just like, oh man. So it's wonderful when people can reach you like that, because when they start saying that, I started laughing. It shifted the whole
Exactly.
energy of the room. So, it's good. It's good. We have to, I take my health seriously, but I don't have to take myself too seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah. Even at this age, I absolutely adore the friends who, you seem stressed today. Let's just sit down and breathe and we can
Yeah.
start our cup of tea so we can center ourselves on having time together.
It's the best gift ever. Yeah.
It is. It is. Absolutely. Okay. We got about 10 minutes left. Share with us some other ones that I know it's so hard to pick. I wish we had a little bingo wheel or something. Interview number 12. So let's just share with us just a few other aha moments that you had in our remaining time.
Yeah. Oh, there were so many ahas. I think that Kelly McCann did a beautiful job talking about mast cell activation syndrome and helped me understand some ways that I can be a better practitioner when I'm working with my patients. That was great. Steven Schleifer, who is actually local here in Portland as well, I brought him in to talk about the energy body, how he sees it as a Chinese medicine trained acupuncturist and Qigong specialist. And he does really interesting acupuncture and energy work where he's doing Qigong. And because I've been on his table, I knew how it felt to be on his table and how he treated me. And I knew he was seeing, like literally seeing more of the energy body and sensing things that a lot of people either sense and don't know what to do with it. And he did a great job describing what he's doing and gave some amazing tips, including taught this thing called baby hands, which is this great thing to regulate your nervous system, where you can put your thumbs in your hands like this and hold it
Okay,
and
so
just,
for those on audio, she's
yeah,
putting her thumb across her palm and then
yeah,
curling her
and then
forefinger
closing.
over her thumb.
Yep. And then just feeling, and just if you're having a freak out movement, your body's freaking out, you're emotionally freaking out, you're energetically freaking out, this is a really great thing you can do. And you just focus of how it feels and what the feeling is in your hands. And soon your whole nervous system begins to regulate. and it begins to send energy up through the arm into the upper back. And it's a very interesting thing. And I ended up needing to use this again on that trip in New Zealand. I had a situation where I ended up in this crazy thing happened to my body. And so I ended up using this and it was so effective. So this is one of the tools. I always talk about tools in your toolkit. So this is one of the new tools in my toolkit.
Well,
And
that
I
you
think
carry
it's,
with you all the time.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing, right? You travel and maybe you forgot one of your favorite supplements, but you got your hands. So that was great. Oh my gosh, Sharon, there's so many. It's so hard to say which ones were great. Keisha Ewers was incredible. You would love her. And she talked a lot about the energy medicine piece. I thought David Perlmutter just absolutely nailed it in terms of brain inflammation. And he has a book coming out in about a year called Brain Wars.
Someone first mentioned brain inflammation to me. I didn't know what they were talking about,
Yeah,
but they were so spot on. That was a
yeah,
major mark
yeah.
of my feeling was when that was addressed.
Exactly. And realizing how much that brain inflammation gets triggered by different things. And I think you and I have talked about this on this show before, but how that traumatic brain injury is not just bonks on the head. The traumatic brain injury can be from an infection, it can be from a toxin, it can be from emotional stress, either an acute, like really intense emotional stress, or just accrued emotional stress over years and decades. And any of those things can trigger that microglia to go into that pro-inflammatory state in your brain, and then it stays that way unless you do something to walk in there and actually activate it and to turn it off. And that's the problem. That's the problem we're having. And that's why we're going to end up with a second pandemic of dementias unless we pay attention to this. So, again, that's why I have been birthing the summit, because there are so many people out there in the world who are not getting the answers they need to address their long COVID, their myalgic encephalitis, their chronic pain. And this is a setup for the dementias. And we don't need to be living this way. We have choices. We have the knowledge. We have the information we need to be able to make different lifestyle choices to address the root cause as to why your body is inflamed right now, so that you can get your body back in balance and live your life fully and be the light you're supposed to be in the world.
Absolutely. I want to circle back about brain inflammation, though. Describe a few of the things people might be experiencing, because I know it's more than just brain fog. But tell us your interpretation of brain fog as well, because people hear that and they go, some days I'm fine, and other days I'm forgetting my own phone number.
Yeah, and I think brain fog is like that. When my grandma had dementia and I was trying to explain to my child what was happening with great grandma, I said it's like when you fly through the clouds in the airplane, and sometimes when you're in the cloud, you can't see anything, and then you come out of the cloud and you can see clearly. That's what's happening to our brain. Sometimes she has cloudy days and sometimes she has clear days. And that's why some days she knows your name and other days she doesn't. And so it can be like that. It can come and go. So brain fog can show up in different ways. It can be the classic, can't find my keys. I don't know why I walked into the room. I can't remember the name. What's the name of that author? All that stuff. This is one that I think is one that people don't realize. It's also your attention span. It's your ability to stay focused and concentrated. We have all been trained, we've all been training ourselves to have short attention span with the social media and advertising and everything. So all of us have shorter attention spans than we used to. And yet, if you're not able to do what you usually do or used to do, that's a problem. I know for me, when I can get stuck in a research paper and I can read and read for hours and be really in there with that, I know that when I got COVID and my brain was inflamed, oh my gosh, 20 minutes. And I'm just like, gosh, I can hardly stay focused here. And what I would find myself doing sometimes when my brain was tired is I would distract myself with, oh, let me go check my email again. Or let me go look and read this news article over here. And so, one of the things that you might be noticing you're doing is procrastinating, putting things off, distracting yourself from whatever you're supposed to be doing, want to be doing, used to do all the time with ease, because your brain's inflamed. It's like your brain is saying, owie, this hurts. And you're reacting to it by going and doing something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so to me, whenever, which I've had those moments or longer than moments, but to me, it's like changing the scenery somehow resets my brain for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't seem, when I'm in brain fog, I need to keep changing the scenery to keep resetting the brain for
Over and
some
over again.
reason. Yeah, over and over
Yes.
again.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And that's literally, there's multiple things happening when that's happening, but just like people get post-exertional malaise where they get more tired after they've done more exercise than usual, for days afterwards, your brain gets post-exertional malaise too, and that's part of it. So you may have this, oh my God, I'm so on it today, and I got all this stuff done, and I stayed really focused, and I did all these things, and I stayed up late finishing stuff, and then the next day, your brain can't focus on stuff. That's post-exertional malaise in your brain. It's the mitochondria in your brain not being able to reset. And a lot of people have mitochondrial dysfunction going on in their bodies for one reason or another, and that can lead to the brain fog. I'd say the other thing with brain fog is just people talk about cotton wool in the brain, feeling thick or heavy, like literally your head feels heavy and thick, being overwhelmed by sensory information, driving down the street and feeling like it's just panicky driving, or going to a grocery store and feeling overstimulated by all the aisles, bright lights bothering you, noise, your grandkids bugging you when they don't usually bug you, like that kind of irritation thing. That can all be brain fog too, brain inflammation.
Oh, wow. Wow. Jenny, we're down to just, wow, the last 4 minutes. I looked at the clock. Okay. So tell us, where can we find more information? Where can we sign up? Because I know you'll send out reminders to all of us. So where do we get all this juicy information about your
Absolutely.
summit?
So the summit is going live on April 11th, and you can start signing up during the first weeks of April. So go to my website, drjennytufenkian.com. That's drjennytufenkian.com. And you can get on the waiting list if you're listening to this before then. If you're listening to it after then, there'll be a sign up link. And if you're listening to this post summit, then check out there. I'm sure we'll have some place where you can still access the recordings.
Oh, fantastic. But Jenny, spell out your entire, you have a unique name.
I
And we
know.
all know how to say it,
What
Tufenkian.
it,
But
yeah.
please spell out your whole URL for us.
Dr. Jenny, Jenny, Tufenkian, T as in Tom, U, F as in Frank, E, N as in Nancy, K, I, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy.com.
Fantastic. And we'll have it up on our description as well, because as you can tell, and if you go back through our archives, you'll find out how awesome Dr. Jenny is. And thank you, Dr. Jenny, for being on. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to sign up the minute it opens. April Fool's Day.
Yeah, it'll be open on April Fool's Day, and it will be live on April 11th. Yes.
And you'll be a fool if you don't sign up. How's that? Everyone, drjennytufenkian.com. We'll have it up in the description here on YouTube, and also on the show page over at understandingautoimmune.com, where you can find this episode as well as all of the others. And everyone, have a great week, whatever your adventures, and join me next week for another brand new episode. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, plus social media is for educational purposes only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.